Pete Tseronis is, how long have you been actually the CTO? Come on out here. How long have you been the CTO at the Energy Department? Because it's new.
Officially since...
They can't hear you because you're not on mic, so
yeah,
you're going to move
not
right
on
up there.
mic, yeah. Officially since, I would say officially since February, but pretty much been living the job for about the last year and a half.
And
so.
why, oh, they removed it. Why do you not have a flag photo?
I don't know. I didn't control
Well,
that.
we'll get that fixed. Pete Tseronis is, before Energy, you were at
Department of
Education. He's now the brand new, and I think the first ever, CTO at the Department of Energy. He's doing really innovative stuff. Please welcome Pete Tseronis.
Thank you. So I've got 10 minutes, and I got to start off with something that's a for example. I had shoulder surgery about 2.5 weeks ago. I'm not wearing my sympathy sling, and you won't be seeing me doing too much of that. But so I want to talk a little bit about enabling the mission via IT at the Department of Energy. But I got to be straight. When I came out of surgery, I was asking I'm a question and answer kind of guy. And I was talking to the surgeon, and I just kind of wanted to know, what did you do? You know, how long did it take? How come it only took a couple hours? And he explained the procedure to me, and it was pretty amazing. I mean, for those of you who've had surgery, they use these endoscopic tools now that it's not a matter of like opening up and doing work and making sure. They're staring at these computer screens all the time, and they're extremely nimble with these, again, endoscopic type of tools that when you see what goes on in here and the screws and the pins and the chicken wire that's in there, it's amazing how they do it through a tiny pinhole. But what it does is it's literally not, it's enabling the mission of surgery, if you will, with these new technologies. But what I found interesting is that it's really creating a new generation of surgeons. And I've got a kid who's a big gamer at home, and it turns out a lot of these next generation surgeons were gamers in their youth. And you need to be using some of these tools or utensils, if you will. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it was something that made me think about how can I tie my shoulder thing into this, but ultimately about innovation and transformation in the medical community. It happens there as well, not just in the federal government. So I had lunch with Anish Chopra a couple weeks ago, and I've been hanging with Dr. Levin and Todd Park recently on a couple of different initiatives. They're political CTOs, so they got a little more swagger. But they're getting some really cool things done. And one of the things that's common, the common thread amongst the three of us, has been this concept of you got to be a hustler. You got to be someone who can relay a vision. You got to be able to talk the technology all the time, but also talk about that impact. What does it mean to me if I'm going to be using IT to enhance the mission at the Department of Energy and that sort of thing from my perspective. So themes for me today in the next 7 minutes are this concept of citizen engagement in open government. We've been hearing about it all day. Sometimes it sounds cliche, but it's really about how do you do that, not just with the public, but also within the enterprise or the agency, which I'll talk about an example. Innovation and modernization, we hear those terms a lot. In my case, I think this is where you're seeing the marriage or the bridging of the CIO and the CTO, a strategist, a tactician. You have to be both. It's not just one is dealing with boxes and wires and one is dealing with the pie in the sky, but you're seeing this intersection of those two C-suite professions. And then lastly, the open data and the concept of open agencies. Democratizing data, Anish speaks to a lot. Rallying around the high-value data sets that a federal agency creates on a daily basis is amazing. And until you start looking at that, you then can appreciate what data.gov is all about. And I have a play in some of the energy.data.gov community that I'll reference. So jumping right in, we all know about the President's Save Award. I think that's something that really speaks to the open government theme. We internally at the Department of Energy had our own version of that, which was something we kicked off. Two of my colleagues, Jay and Bruce, are here with me, who are rock stars. The three of us literally went on a crowdsourcing campaign to find out what can IT do to better support the mission at the Department of Energy. And what resulted from that 3 or 4 month process was not just a document that said, here's what we've learned, here are the votes that were tallied, here are the comments, but we took 150,000 people, if you will, or the end users or the endpoints of this question, and we were able to create a living and breathing strategic roadmap. It's something that has produced the output of summits. We have quarterly summits now on topics like mobility, collaboration, geospatial about a month ago. We're going to have one here soon on open government itself. We're going to look at our open government plan and tell some of the stories around there. But outcomes from the roadmap, when I say living and breathing, yeah, there's a document, but we posted it on our internal Powerpedia site. Shout out to my buddy Don Burke, who came over from the CIA, who created Intellipedia. He's created this online collaboration dialogue, and that's something that we generated as a result of this dialogue, this hustling around with the lab community and making some things happen, but with an enterprise focus. Open data. Todd talked about his his health.data.gov efforts, and that's been fantastic. Dr. Levin in the blue button. I'm part of something exciting that's basically the green button. Dr. Levin mentioned it. It's not just about, it's about getting your information about your electricity usage at the push of a button. We're in the early stages of that, but it's a collaborative effort that's going to be engaging with EPA, with folks at NIST, smart grid community. So we're going to try to make that, come to life. You hear a lot about smart meters and what's the impact of that technology, but the green button will produce, hopefully, that same sort of impact that the blue button has. As far as the energy.data.gov community, I'm highly engaged with that group. That, again, is an interagency effort. I'm working with David Foley at the GSA. That's being sponsored out of Anisha's shop, much like the health.data.gov community, the geo.data.gov community. This one's focuses on, obviously, energy. And I want to say it's November 8th, where Apps for the Environment's going to be awarding its to its awardees, just recognition for the good work that's been done in that type of a challenge. We're hoping to build something out of this energy.data.gov that hopefully, again, fingers crossed, will be announced at that effort. But that's 2 months in, the site's up and running, energy.data.gov. Check it out. It's all about creating that dialogue. But to do something with it, we hope to have some outcome and some output, much like what Todd and Peter have done. So I'm psyched that I'm in the brethren, or as I told Anish, when are you going to say, I'm one of your brothers in arms, because he refers to these guys all the time as that. But I think I got a few fist pumps when I see him now. So again, not being a political, you kind of have to hustle extra hard to kind of get in the club. I do want to just point out the data sharing I referenced in our agency. That crowdsourcing effort did a number of things. It got me out there talking to our national labs. They didn't know who the heck I was. They never heard from folks in the CIO office, but they enjoy the dialogue. And those summits, one of the main things they did was they allowed these folks to tell their stories. So what we did is we'd go out there, we'd say, come in and can you tell your story to the Department of Energy community, much like we're doing here, but it was more like a, tell me what's going on, tell me how IT is enabling your mission, and then you get people talking and the dialogue starts to happen. Well, we found some really key things that came out, and primarily it was there's so many data sets that the programmatic offices that the department use, our researchers, our scientists in the lab communities are actually leveraging it, and in some cases they didn't even know the data was there or it wasn't machine readable. So we, again, the role, if anything, I'm a facilitator. I'm facilitating information from headquarters with our, in this case, M&Os or contractors on technologies or presenting opportunities. Enterprise search is one of the ones that we did by leveraging our Google search appliance to, cylinder is kind of a hot term, but it's actually helping collect information in a much more efficient way through technology, but we really didn't examine it until somebody said in our crowdsourcing effort, we need to do more enterprise searching or searching capability. So that was exciting, and that was an output that came in terms of sharing data within an agency. Infrastructure's been talked about today. I can't underscore it enough. I grew up in IT and the technology side of the house, worked for several years with GSA on the Networks program, big plug for the contract, big fan of it. We don't use it enough, but more importantly, everything you want to do from an infrastructure standpoint is in there. And whether you're thinking cloud, IPv6, you're thinking mobility platforms, that is what infrastructure is, right? You don't have the infrastructure. That's great that you could design an application till the cow comes home. But if you have an infrastructure base, you can do these wonderful things that we talk about. But that is where the money is, and that's where the time and energy needs to go into the architecture. Just to tie a few things up. So I mentioned the Green Button Initiative. You'll hear a little bit more about that. There's the executive order on customer service and the service delivery through IT. That's a hot button in government right now. I'm glad to be a part of that effort, but agencies are looking to improve that customer service experience through IT. The STAR Metrics Initiative, it stands for Science and Technology for America's Reinvention, measuring the effects of research on innovation, competitiveness, and science, interagency effort. There's probably somebody in the federal government agency who's dealing with that. It has to do with What's the return on the investment for all of our STEM and research dollars? National Training and Education Resource is really exciting. It potentially could be the next generation cloud learning platform for the federal government. And in closing, I want to thank my leadership for the opportunity to be a part of all these initiatives. Mike Lokaitis at the Department of Energy. He's come in from state and local and brings a fresh perspective. Innovation starts with infrastructure. I can't state that point enough. Dave McClure created this inertia with challenging agencies through the creation of challenge.gov. I think it's something every agency should take part of, and creating that line of sight. If there's one thing I think I'm pretty good at, that's taking a technology mission, tying it to a strategic objective, and ultimately figuring out what IT can support it. And I want to sum up and close out by saying that when people ask me, what is it you do here as the CTO, I got to give Mike props, Mike Lokaitis. He says, your job on a daily basis is doing what a CTO should, and that's your strategy is informing our tactics. And I thought that was a cool compliment, even though I don't have money and I don't have a budget and I have too much staff. The strategic perspective that I bring to the table and my fellow CTOs, I think, is pretty significant. So thank you for your time.
Hey, nice job.
Yeah.
That sounds like a dream come true. So you get no staff, no budget, and yet have to make all sorts of change.
Yeah, but I'm a guy who likes to talk to people, and I, as my mom says, I can talk, your ear off, but you got to have that blending, right? You got to be willing to talk to people and figure out what's going on.
So when they approached you and said, okay, we want you to be the CTO, what did they say they wanted you to do?
They basically said, do what you've been doing, and then write your PD, and then kind of define the job as you go, which is what I'm doing. And it's somewhat comical, but when you look at the CTOs, I am sure if you polled CTOs, it would be different in every agency. They're the ones that read white papers, they're the ones that come from that scientific engineering community, and God bless them. And then there's ones like me, and I think this is that next generation of you've got to be able to speak it, you've got to be able to explain it, you've got to be able to explain the benefits of versus the compliance role that unfortunately a lot of our CIOs get stuck in, and that's that boxes and wires world of keep the lights on. So it fits me right now, and I'm digging it. So,
Pete Tseronis, everybody.